Hey, we're Matt and Julie Beamer with Jonathan and Elizabeth Beamer, and we are celebrating 30 years of living and ministering overseas. And to do that, we're going to be sharing stories both today, Club 1040 Day, and throughout the year coming. We'll be dropping different stories, different podcasts, and things like that to show you how your investment in Club 1040 is making an impact throughout the Middle East and North Africa, and to talk about how by the year 2030, we want to see that impact expand and continue in a strong and more quick way. So make sure you don't miss out, and also help us out by sharing these with your friends as well. Spread the word, because the more we get this word out, the more we can do, the more quickly we can do it together. God bless.
Yeah.
So, but getting back to England, so we moved to Manchester. We pioneered the church, and that's a whole story in and of itself. The little house that we had. Do you guys remember that little house? You were born in the house. So
not actually in the house.
Yeah, not in the house. So you were born while we were living in that house. Well,
and this is like 1998 at this point then.
Yeah.
So you moved to the UK in 94.
Yes.
Jonathan was born in 96. And then
Still in Liverpool.
Still in Liverpool. And then moved to Manchester, England in 97, 98.
Well, we moved like October 96. 96, okay. October 96.
Right after Jonathan was born, yes, yeah. June.
And we rented a house that ends up that the guy, it was a brand new house, and tiny little house, but brand new. And it was the guy who owns it ends up going to jail.
Well, you got to back it up, because you didn't know that at first. So I believe you were trying to figure out how to pay rent.
Yeah, we didn't have the money to pay rent.
And then
there were times when we'd send our newsletters overseas, and back then we'd do them all ourselves and send them overseas. And back there, everything was snail mail. There was no electronic anything. So sometimes all the newsletters would go missing overseas, and nobody would get, and they had the envelopes for giving. So we might not get any money in that month.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were other times.
It was a very rough area, and they would knock on our door at midnight and come and ask for Jonathan to come to their house.
The little kids would.
And say, can Jonathan come out and play?
Yeah.
I think you had.
But you were trying to figure out how to pay the next month's rent.
Yeah, and I accidentally opened up one of the guys, the owner. It was like to the occupier of the mail, and I opened it up, and it's like, you're going to be, you haven't been paying your mortgage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if he's not paying his mortgage, I'm not paying it. I'm good. And I was like almost praying that the guy never paid his mortgage, because I'm like, if we wouldn't have been able to make up our back rent. And for like 6 months, it went without paying rent. And then it turned out where this is just, we have so many stories like this, but then it turned out where I found out that why he wasn't paying his rent is because he was in jail. And I only found that out because they actually put an eviction notice on our door. So I went to the adjudicators. We literally were going to come to the U.S. and itinerate for 3 weeks. It was in October time. And this is after you had just been born in June, so you were just a couple months old. And I've got 2 small kids, and the ministry is just now starting to grow, and we're about to itinerate. And I just like, listen, can you at least wait till after Christmas to kick us out? And they're like, listen, we would, but the bank's fighting it. They want their property back, and I have nothing. I have no power here. I have to, judge according to the situation. So I came home. Julie's like all eager. She'd been praying. She's like expecting us to have, the answer we want. She opens the door. What'd they say? And they said, we got to move. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, really, stop messing. And then I'm like, no, we got to move. She's like, stop messing. And I finally said, listen, you can stay in the doorway right now, and you can but we need to pack. And she's like, where are we going to go? And I have no idea. And we'll find out by time. We got 24 hours to leave. And so I'm like, we rented the biggest possible, they call them box vans, whatever you call them here, U-Haul things. And we just started packing. I called everybody in the church, packed it all up. And then Stevie let us stay in her little room. We put some of our stuff in her storage. We packed our bags for this trip to the States, which was only a couple of days later. We almost died in Stevie's front room.
Yeah, they used to they had these gas fires that you turn it was gas with propane gas.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth and I were in there, and I literally could not wake myself up because the smell of gas was so bad. And you were a baby. I don't know how, other than angels kept you alive, but literally you could have been dead. If I could barely wake up as an adult, you as a baby, I cannot even imagine.
Got those singing lungs.
It's true.
Yeah. And then when I came back a little bit early, and there was no place for me to come. So Jeff Kaysen had a bed sit. It wasn't even a full one bedroom apartment. It was literally like a living room with a kitchenette in it and a shared bathroom for students. And so he and I, we stayed in that place together until you eventually came, and we found our next place. And it's been stuff like that throughout the whole journey.
What do you
Crazy.
guys remember? What are some of your memories about? You guys were pastors' kids. We had a thriving church with many different cultures. Jonathan, what was some things that you remembered about growing up in England? What were some of your best memories?
Well, England's a very, very interesting place. And even though it's somewhat of you don't have the same stories as Nigeria, third world country, but it still is a very, very adventurous place, especially in Manchester, because Manchester nowadays is a thriving area. BBC UK is there. There's so much development since we've left that has just gone on. But now, or when we were there, everything was boarded up. It was not the city that it is today. And so, I think World Harvest Bible Church and Go Church now was a big reason for that, being in the city center before anybody else was there, having that impact. I mean, it's changed. So being there early on where everything was shuttered, it wasn't the best place to be. You have so many different stories.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's amazing to go back now because, so obviously Clifton 40, which is your guys' nonprofit, was established, and that's how you guys raise support. And then you went on to start the church, which was World Harvest Bible Church. And to go back now and see the location where it is, I was there a few months ago, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like, we would go walk around the Lowry, which is a close little outlet mall, and like a museum down there. And there was nothing there. Nobody there. We would go see a movie at an empty, cinema. Nothing was there. And I was there 2 months ago. And like he said, the BBC, which is the biggest broadcasting network in the UK, has moved there. The restaurants are thriving. And to know and see what has become of this thing that you kind of took the risk on, took a bet on however many, 26, 30 years ago, it really is. It's amazing. Yeah.
I loved pastoring. I always knew I wanted to be a pastor, and I never knew how we would do it. But with that vision in your heart to move from Liverpool to Manchester, we started holding little meetings just with me and you in our front room. And from that, it developed into a thriving church that was reaching the whole community. We became one of the biggest churches in that whole entire community. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, because you said you called everybody in the church to come help pack up that box, or the box truck. Like, how many people was everybody in the church?
Yeah, at that time, the church, so that was after you're born. So it was like the end of 1998 when we had to move out of the house. But, so the church had only started in April 97 formally, but when it started April 13th, 1997 with 17 people in church. That was after months of preparation and developing launch team and stuff. And then the next Sunday, I think we had 12. So it was growing backwards by huge percentages.
And when you say church, it was living room style, correct?
Well, we did that during the middle of the week, but we used the Copthorne Hotel.
Oh, okay,
Remember
it was the
Copthorne
hotel. Yep.
We used to say we're like the only church that has a full service bar for the children's ministry.
Back then, anyways.
Because the kids ministry was based in the bar area.
Jonathan we would go into the bar, me and you, and we would set out the Bibles for the kids in the bar. And so you were my best helper. It was amazing.
I have a question. So something that you talk about specifically is, remember when you had to go to the doctor because of Yeah, talk about that. I think that's funny.
Yeah, that was in Liverpool right before he moved, but it was kind of funny. Jonathan had been born, and I had, just through studying and praying and stuff, the vision that had dropped, this is after the vision had dropped into my heart for moving to Manchester Pioneer Church, and I was just so filled with vision. I didn't realize how much it had affected me physically. So what had happened is for about 3 months, my heart had been beating irregularly, like extra fast. And, in the summertime in England, it's the opposite of the winter, where the sun it comes up very, very early and stays up very, very late. I was sleeping like 3 hours a night. I don't sleep that much anyway, but 3 hours a night is not enough. So I was running. I don't like to run. I was doing everything I can to like get rid of all this energy. And finally, I told your mom, I was concerned to tell her for a while, but I told her, I said, I think I'm having heart issues. Something's going on. She's like, go get it checked. So I did. And they put me through all kinds of tests, and to kind of make it a little bit of a shorter story, the doctor comes in and he's like, I have never seen this before. And I was like concerned, like, what's wrong with me? And he's like, my diagnosis is you're too happy. He's like, you have all the symptoms of a constant high level adrenaline rush. And he's like, has anything, like extra special happened recently? So I've had a son, I've got purpose, like all this stuff. And in the kind of the lesson I learned out of that is the Bible talks about, for the joy that was set before Jesus, he endured the cross. And the Bible also says the joy of the Lord is our strength. There is an empowerment that enables you to endure things that other people would think, how in the world did you ever endure that? Like we had multiple cars stolen. We had, so many different things happen. And I would be walking down the road just like, I love my life. Like it seems like I'm maybe got a screw loose or something that a normal person wouldn't think that about the life. But it was that vision and purpose was so empowering, and the joy that strengthened us through that was tangible.
That's awesome. So you started World Harvest Bible Church, and then that grew to obviously more than 17 people.
Yeah. One of the more unique things that happened during that time is the number, and really probably where we realized there was a grace in our lives to reach people from a Muslim background is there were a number of people that came to faith, and like about 1,000 people were born again over the space of our time there from the Muslim background. Mm-hmm. And also during that time, we started going in and out of Egypt and different things. There was a lady from Egypt that came and visited the church. She's like, our people need this. We started visiting there. And, so the international side, and really what God had told us before we even moved to England, which is one of those words we stood on in those hard times, was that England is a nation from which to reach to the nations. It would happen both in the country and from the country. And while we were pastoring the church, we thought we might be there forever.
I couldn't even see us going anywhere else. It's where I felt like we were going to live for the rest of our lives. Our children were happy. They were born there. They had beautiful friends. We had a community around us. Even though we didn't have family with us, God brought us family there. We had Pam and Tony that would bring you Christmas presents and birthday presents.
Jeff and Nina
were like your uncle and aunt. We had people like Linda and Andy Powell that we would go and stay with, and they took care of you, and it was like you were theirs. Yeah. We never lacked for anything. So I didn't see us going anywhere else.
Yeah, and we felt like that the purpose on our life, which was to reach the unreached nations, could happen from England, since God said it's a nation from which to reach the nations.
Yeah, one of the things that was really stuck out to me was when culture started being introduced. One thing that people don't know about the UK or Manchester specifically is that the national dish is actually Indian food. It's a big melting pot there, and people don't really realize that. And one of the things that you guys started to introduce in the church was an Iranian service, where I think it was being translated into Arabic or Farsi. Yeah. And so lots of things started happening that kind of started inching towards that, which kind of brings me to when you told us that we were going to move.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, hearing some of the stories, and letting us pull back the curtain a little bit and invite you into our family adventures over these last 30 years. It's because of you that Clifton 40 has been able to do anything that we've done. Thank you so much.